It is day number 9 of the Family Business Life 9-day transformation challenge. Yes, you heard it right. Day number 9. Yes, we have been hopping into the virtual studio every morning, 6:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, 12:30 p.m. Central Standard Time every day for 9 days. And this is the 9th day of the last mastermind experience, or the first experience of this day, and we got one more. And I tell you, I shared this briefly, when I was running track and cross country. I was the guy that when that bear would jump on my back, he would come with his refrigerator and his sofa, and I would just let him have a nice little party. I didn't let that happen this time. We are finishing strong. We burned the energy that needed to be burned to get to this point, and we are not going to let it down now. We are going to generate the energy for this moment, just like we did for the other moments, because it is important that you experience challenge for transformation. That's the whole point. And if you're watching live, you're watching us probably by StreamYard. If you have that link, you're probably watching us by YouTube, LinkedIn. Appreciate you. Glad you're here. But also, you might be on demand. And if you are, we are appreciative for you coming back and joining us, because we are here for you. I'm just going to tell you the truth. Am I here for me? To a degree. Why? Because I got to get this stuff out. I have to get these people to get this stuff out. And when they get it out, it can get where it needs to go for you. So we're hopeful that you, at this point in these 9 days, if you're starting here, hey, go back, check out days 1 through 8. There's much value. Really, it's a good lead up and good segue to the day. But just know there is absolutely the commitment for you to see the reality that family life and business life are teammates, not opponents. And today is not going to be any different. I want to thank our partner in this 9-day transformation challenge, Awareness Elevation, James Powell and Ann Weaver, Larry Rollison. They have made some magnificent contributions to this 9-day transformation challenge, participating in mastermind experiences, VIP Q&A experiences, participating in the live participation experience, throwing things in the chat. I mean, they've been making a difference. And guess what? They want to make a difference in your life as well, to assist you with your self-awareness so that you can achieve high performance in all that you do. So make sure you get to the information in the description section of where you're watching, or if you're on the website, go very, very much so down to the bottom of that page, because there's a way you can join the Family Business Life Mastery community. And when you do that, you're going to position yourself to access some of the things that they have. Specifically, they're going to be offering to everybody who joins the community the opportunity to become a part of their Champion Leadership Academy on a monthly basis. Y'all, Awareness Elevation has just offered so much support, feedback, value, and they are wanting to do it for you too. So come on, join this community and get into this environment to experience quantum leaps, and not just leaps by yourself. You hear me now? Okay. So we are on here to have a mastermind conversation, and I'm not sure that I'm ready for this one. We had high energy generation on day 1, and I think we got about a match for that today. Let me just go ahead and bring this guest in, Shane Robb, the micro message expert. Now, listen, he's a micro message expert. I'm telling you, this guy can get a solid message in 30 seconds to 60 seconds. I certainly know he can do it in 2 minutes, because we were a part of the Great American Speak Off as well. However, he can also give you some value beyond 60 seconds. I mean, this brother can let loose and provide you some value bombs that are going to explode and cause all of the problematic patterns in your mind to be disrupted. Shane, Rob, talk to us this morning and tell us how you're doing. Give us a little bit of introduction.
Oh my goodness, Leo, I'm so excited to be back. Speak Off was the first time we met and it was amazing.
Yeah,
You know what else I found that we have in common is we're both John Maxwell team members, which is another level.
yeah,
Speaker, trainer, coaches.
uh-huh.
I'm excited that you brought me on. Like Leo said, my name is Shane Robb, micro message.
Absolutely.
And it's all about taking decades and turning it into the days. Taking these 30-minute, hour-long videos, reading these 600-page books that no one wants to read, and taking that and putting it in a bite-sized message for you.
Mm,
I take the complex and make it simple.
yeah.
And that's what I've been about. For the last 7 years, I started this, and I love it. And it's really a way to give back.
Mm,
Um, so coming on here today, it's just such an honor, and I get to go last. It's like I've got the advantage because I got to listen to everybody else and just bring what they brought and add to it. So like you
man.
said, James came with the energy. I loved what he was talking about. But look, I've coached football, I coach volleyball, and I always tell my players when we get down to the nitty gritty and we're on that last segment, this is not when we let loose. This is when we crank it up and go another
Yeah.
level. So let's go another level right now.
Man, let's do it. So, I knew you were gonna be excited, but I didn't know it's gonna be this excited, right? And one of the things that really I think for me set the tone for our conversation was the thought process of patterns, right?
Mm.
And you talked about this in, our pre-challenge conversation and how too many people just live in the thick of patterns that are not serving them well because it's a pattern, because it's a habit. It's just something that, we've known, we've done, we've heard. And I think about that in context of everything that's been said up to now. And the number one or the first thing that was busted up was this pattern of belief related to work life balance. You know, First of all, and I want to set this up for us. It's not that people haven't heard this, but it's worth repeating in order that somebody might get it, that this is one of the most, you know, heinous, misleading beliefs. Work life balance. I mean, the more I have said it, in this 9 days, I have really become even more convinced of how much it doesn't work because I've studied it more. I've put it under the microscope more. I've looked at so many different layers and levels of it. And work life is one thing, right? It's a description of life. Work is a part of life, right? And we've talked about it that, my parents, they're all deceased, from my parents to their parents, everybody's gone. I got aunts and uncles and stuff like that, but all those folks are gone. They can't work. And the reason they can't work is because they do not have life, right? So that means that work is a pivotal part of life, which means essentially there's synonymity in life and work. Okay. So, balance, in order to balance something on a scale to weigh it, you must have something of opposing force, energy, and substance to be able to determine if there is balanceability. So if you got only one work life, that's a problem. Not only is it a problem, you trying to balance something that's one, you're also only trying to balance something thinking that it's two things. The other thing, like family, but you're talking about it in its singular form, that it's the opposing reality of family, because you have exalted it only. You're not talking about this is work life and family life balance. Now, if you said that, it's more appropriate to the scale, but it's still not appropriate to the nature of family life and business life or work life, however you want to look at it. So the insanity of work. I was talking with Larry in our VIP Q&A experience, and he said, Leo, man, I've been 35 years, my career, 30 years in marriage, and we were dealing with the time-bound reality of work-life balance, and all it did was just provide us frustration and confusion, right? Man, talk about the power of that type of pattern, and even get into the nitty-gritty of just the thoughts you have, not just related to that thought process on your own evaluation, but even what you've observed in, the mastermind experiences you've watched of the other speakers. Man, just take us there, Shane.
Yes, our routine determines our results.
Hmm.
And when you think about trying to balance out work life, it's kind of like this pin. I want to take this pin and I want to balance it. It's already tilting. I got to get it just right. But the problem is, like you said, there's opposing forces. There's one force going the other way, and it's constantly trying to balance. So when we look at that, to balance this, if I can't balance this, I have to use energy. I have to work at trying to balance this pin. And look at our lives. You want to go to work, you want to go home, you want to give your best at both places. But the problem is, the illusion, it's an illusion of balance because it's never truly balanced. I kind of think of it like this. Think of it more of, you've heard, are you the thermostat or are you the thermometer? A thermometer has no choice in life. It is totally and absolutely determined by outside forces. So whatever's outside going on, if it gets hot, it has to get hot with it. If it gets cold, it has to cool down. It reacts. It does not respond. Where when we look at a thermostat's different, because a thermostat, you go in your home and you say, I want you to be at 65 degrees. All right. If the outside forces raise above 65, thermostat says, hey, we're not going to react to that, but we are going to respond. And here's how we're going to respond. We're going to start cooling this thing down. Now, if the outside forces decide that it's going to drop down outside and get cold, well, now it doesn't react again. It responds. And it says, hey, guess what? It's a little bit colder than we want. We're going to turn the heat on and we're going to get back up here. Now, here's the thing with balance. You may reach the set point, but how long does it stay there? Just as long as the outside forces are within that realm. But you're constantly having to, what we would say balance, really it's adjust. You can make excuses or you can make adjustments. And most people spend their life just making excuses for why it's not working out, why things don't happen the way they want them to, instead of pausing and taking a look at our routines and asking, is there something within there that I can adjust? Because if I'm not getting the result that I want, routine determines your results. If you're not getting the results you want, then you need to take a look at what you're doing on a daily basis.
Man, you made me think about something I said in the Lunch and Learn yesterday. And this is pivotal to what you're saying, because okay, so let me back up and share, I've said this throughout the challenge in different places that I've contributed, that my background is in accounting as well as research. And specifically with regard to research, there were a number of layers in that. There was data analysts, there was research analysts, there was reporting aspects, there was survey research, and the breadth of that. I'm talking about dealing with paper instruments, online instruments, focus groups, various other aspects, qualitative versus quantitative. And I mentioned those last on purpose. The qualitative measure is totally different than the quantitative measure. There are ways you analyze the qualitative that you don't and cannot. Well, let me say it differently. There are ways you measure the quantitative and ways that you cannot measure the qualitative. The qualitative, you can't really put numbers by it. You can't use symbols in order to be able to connect certain things with regard to being able to deal with percentages and things of that nature. A lot of the qualitative, you have to kind of go one by one. You have to evaluate it, by intellect, right? You have to evaluate it by the mindset, by the information, not the data points, right? With quantitative, you can have something that has a qualitative attribute or dynamic, but it's indicated by some type of symbol, a number, a yes or no, whatever the case may be. So you got scales you deal with there. But the qualitative, here's the interesting part, because I'm coming to a point that I made yesterday. With quantitative, you can have just like massive amounts of data, and you can bring it down to a very concise representation and presentation. Qualitative, you can have that amount, but it's going to be a little more difficult to break it down that way because it's a different nature. But here's the thing, both of them work together. Both of them have their unique functions in such a way that they become yet and still able to flow into each other, like family life and business life, make fuel for one another, and independently and shared with one another, like family life and business life, and then create focus between one another. Because a lot of times you'll start with the quantitative and then you go to the qualitative to help give explanation to the quantitative. Now, I said that to say, this is good. I'm gonna set you up well, brother. I said yesterday that in business life requires that we give more of a quantity of time than a quality of time. And family life requires that we give a quality of time more than a quantity of time. And that's specific to the fact that life is the source of life is represented and present in family life. Whereas in business life, we are the source of life and must be present for it to function. Now that doesn't mean we can't automate things. I'm not talking about that. But even still, to automate it, you had to have given a certain amount of time to get it to the point to where that thing that's now automating would actually produce something. Now, this might set you up for something else you were thinking that you told me about before we started. I wasn't intending that, but talk about the understanding, the power of the understanding that when you realize you cannot and even should not try to have equal amounts of time in family life and business life, because you understand they require different aspects of time. One requires more quantity, one requires more quality. All right. Knowing that, how pivotal is that in us being able to break those patterns and really live with true predictable productiveness in our family life and business life?
So I'm going to do my best to answer. Kind of, you put a ton out there. So if I just break down what I think that you're wanting to know is there's two different realms, but they have to flow together.
Come on.
You have the business financial realm, and we have goals, and we have results that we're trying to achieve. And then on the other side, you have your family, and you have, same thing, the wealth of that relationship, and then the goals for your family, the results you're trying to get there. And the two we're gonna measure business results if we're hitting those different on a different scale than if what our family results are. Those are different things that we're measuring. And it's like in business, at the end of the day, it's more like of a money scale. And in family, it's more of a relation scale.
Mm.
And so you have to know what you're dealing with. You can't win a game you don't know the rules to.
Come on.
So you got to learn the rules.
Come
And
on,
you
brother.
got to understand what you're trying to accomplish. And you also have to look at the flow of, I can't effectively give my family the best of myself if I'm using the best of myself in business. If I just give it all there and I'm just coming home and giving them the leftovers, that's not enough.
Mm.
And
Ooh.
why would you want to do that? Why would you want to do that? So you got to really dive in and take a look at what's the end result that you want. What do you want most over what you want right now? And for me, in 2008, it was a peak time, and then a big valley was right around the corner. I didn't know. The economy crashed. So we had just moved into a big home. We had our first kid, and it was the forever home. I had one source of income. And when that economy crashed in 2008, so did my finance, my income. And everything I had that I thought I needed, I lost. I had the
Mm.
nice cars, had the big house, had all the stuff. And it all went away like that. So it caused me to have to refocus and rethink. And yeah, it's pretty humbling when you go from, a 3,500 square foot home back into your parents' bedroom,
Mm.
your parents' house. And then, you move into an apartment and it's like you did everything in life backwards, it seems like. But I wouldn't have it any other way because the experiences that we learned, me and my wife through that, was something you just can't go and get. You can't go get that off a shelf. You can read it in a book, but it's different when you're experiencing it versus going through that. So what I learned in this process, I made a decision and I wrote it in some of my books, was I decided at that moment I would never put myself in that kind of a situation again, because I can't be, if I'm not like, if we're not getting the results we want at work, it's going to bleed through and affect family. And I had a quote that I put on here. If we don't heal from the wounds that hurt us, we'll end up bleeding on people that never cut us. And if you
Whoa.
think that you're at business and you're struggling there and things are bothering you there and they're affecting you there, and you think you're not going to drag that home, you're wrong. You're going to
Mm.
drag it home. And it comes out in ways you don't want. Because what happens to many times when we get at work and something bothers us, there's something eating away at us, and we'll bite our lip. We won't say anything at work. We won't say anything at work. And then we go home, and then the people we love most, we unleash and we attack them like they did it. And they don't even know what's going on. And the reality is, we're not even mad at the people at home. We're not even upset with the people at home. It's just because something triggered us, and then all this thing we've been holding in at work just unleashed right then in that moment on people that we don't really want to hurt.
Mm.
And then when we step outside of it, it's like in 2008 when I had to really look at what was going on. And at that moment in my life, I blamed the economy because it was easy.
Yeah.
I blamed other things and other people because it was easy.
Come on.
But then I had to realize I had to blame myself. And here's what I learned. If you always blame other people and other things for your problems, you're going to always need other people and other things to solve your problems.
Come on.
You got to look
Wow.
within yourself. And I realized I was my problem. I didn't do what Les Brown said. It's better be prepared for an opportunity and not have one than have an opportunity and not be
Not be
prepared.
prepared. Yeah.
An opportunity came and I wasn't prepared.
Yeah.
And I lost everything. So I had to refocus and realize that, hey, Shane, your problem was you had one income stream. You weren't diversified. That's on you. So
Yeah.
guess what? I got diversified. I I didn't have the knowledge I needed on finances, how they worked. I got educated. You got to educate if you want to regulate. You got to know. You got to know because you know what? I buy into that saying, and I hear people say it every now and then. Ignorance is bliss.
What?
No, it's not.
What?
Ignorance will get you hurt. Ignorance will cause you pain. You got to
Get you in
know
serious trouble.
big time. So I took these things and I started not just reading the books, I started applying the books because applied power is knowledge. You
Mm,
have to apply it. It's not enough to give the message. You must be the message.
mm.
And so when I tell you the story, I mean, this is just a snapshot. Fast forward 15 years from that moment. Okay, well, now my income's diversified. Now, right now, I've got investment properties, passive income. I learned you can put your money to work. You can have your money make you money. And you know, if you listen to Ed Milet, Tony Robbins, Zig Ziglar, you know, all these different people, Eric Thomas, they're going to tell you you need to find a way to make your money make you money while you sleep. And that's what I figured out how to do. And so I'm an electrician, realtor, and I'm an investor. And then I coach sports. I do things. I find ways to give back because it's not what you get, it's what you give back.
Come on.
And so you start getting the flow of all this together. And it's like on this book,
Put
25
it
marriage tips,
closer.
you're talking
Put it
about
closer.
marriage. You're talking about marriage right here. We're either flowing together or drifting apart.
Mm,
So you have to think about that and you have to figure out, well, one, which way are we flowing?
mm.
Are we flowing the same way? You know?
Man, you are hitting on some stuff. You know, one of the things you said early in that little piece that you shared, man, you dropped a lot of micro messages in there, by the way. So I just want you to know when you come back and listen to this, you'll see all those micro messages. um, you talked about the energy. You use all your energy at work and you have none for at home. So when you said that, it made me think about the problem of work life balance. When you have an intentional thought process that is along the lines of family business life mastery, where you are operating within the accurate beliefs of achieving flow, making fuel, creating focus, there's no idea in your mind of I'm using my energy for business and I have none for family because the energy is not the same, right? You're generating independent, but then dependent at the same time energy. In other words, when you understand in creating focus, you're generating interdependent energy while in business and interdependent energy while in family life, meaning you have such a unique and defined perspective of the relationships between family life and business life, such a unique definition of the roles that they play with one another, and you understand your role in each one. And I got a example to give you to explain this before I give you the question. There's such a definition of the role between each one that you're not using energy for family life that you need to use for business life and vice versa. And let me give you real quickly. So last summer I coached summer basketball with AAU, A grade boys. And the coach that I coached with, he would ask me, he'd say, Leo, how can you come and coach basketball and then leave from coaching basketball and go perform a wedding? Like I it's like that would seem like it's just too taxing. And you know what I said to him? It's all the same to me. It's all the same. Why? The energy that I'm giving for basketball while it's specifically basketball, it's still just my assignment. And I have the ability to generate the energy for that assignment for that moment. Not to mention, I've already thought for the day what I need to do. So I know, okay, I need to do this for this moment. I need to do this for this moment. So I'm not trading energy. I'm not exchanging it. I'm not saying I'm gonna put the energy for being a wedding officiant over here with being a basketball coach. Nor am I actually um putting the energy for being a basketball coach and a wedding officiant into me being a husband and a father. Right. And I think that's one of those illusions that we have, is that, I mean, this goes back to what James said about generating energy. I think it's an illusion that we feel like we can only have enough energy for one of those things, which is why it's a misleading belief that you have to choose one over the other, make one more important than the other. It's an illusion, because we have been created with the ability to generate energy for every specific assignment that we have. And that's what you're talking about. Like you just mentioned, you're a realtor, you're an electrician, you're an investor, you're a coach, coach volleyball, coach basketball, who knows, whatever else you coach. You're your husband, your father, and I know you be getting down with the teaching with your girls, or is it girl and boy? I can't remember. I be
All
forget.
3 girls.
That's what it is. It's girls. I couldn't remember the girls. But I know you be getting down because you be talking about that in the micro messages, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when you give this picture with regard to understanding that, I think we isolate ourselves in our ineffectiveness rather than isolating ourselves in our effectiveness vein, and position ourselves to not have the awareness that we can generate energy that we need for every assignment we have. Was that before we jumped on? You were talking about the flash.
Yes.
Talk about that, man.
So one of the things that I do to connect with my kids is we watch shows together, and it gives something to talk about. And one of the episodes I was talking about was generating energy. We were talking about, James was talking about generating, creating energy. And in this episode of The Flash, what had happened was he generates energy by running really fast, but he has to create it by moving, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But he only knew, and everybody on his team only knew of one way to do it. And that was he had to physically start moving, rapidly, his arms, his legs, and run. Well, there was a bad guy that caught him and put him in a lock. Like he couldn't move. He was frozen. And the bad guy's crushing him. His team's freaking out. They all think he's going down. And then all of a sudden, he has to go within himself and start thinking of a new way to generate electricity, because he's like, running ain't going to work. There's only one way to get out of this. I got to create a new way of thinking about my life in this moment.
Come on.
If you will. And when he went within, he figured out he could generate so much power by just vibrating himself. He generated enough electricity to blow up and, defeat the bad guy and all that. But he had to do it in a new way. And a lot of us are locked in these patterns of old thinking, and we're locked into, there's only one way to do it. When reality is there's other ways. We just haven't tapped into them yet.
Man, talk about, like, we're gonna stay there for a moment. Talk about how much, with regard to family life and business life, and then with regard to just everything about our individual lives. So those two relationships within us specifically, how much do we underestimate the reality of the unlimited, unfulfilled potential that we have? And based on that, how should we deal with it in regard to being able to really shift and tapping into that, unleashing that?
I like something Stephen Furtick said. Don't look at people's potential. Look at their patterns. Look at their patterns. It'll tell you what they're up to. And we do underestimate our potential a lot of times because we don't believe we don't believe it's possible for
Mm.
us. We see it for other people, but we don't believe it's possible. And here's what I'll tell you, something else that I was listening to just before I even hopped onto all this. Jim Quick, he said,
Okay.
our mind is always eavesdropping on our self-talk.
Okay.
So what we speak becomes reality. God gave us this gift called a tongue, and the Bible even says with it, it's like the tongue's like a double-edged sword. It
Mm.
provides life and death. I wrote a book right here, and it was called Shut the Hell Up. And it was talking about just that thing. Like, do you understand the words that are coming out of your mouth? You understand the life that it's giving or the death that it's causing to people around you,
Mm.
even in your own life? So when you're thinking about, your potential, do you think about what you think about? Because what we think
Mm.
about, we bring about.
Ooh.
And it is not just a cute saying, it's reality. It's
Mm.
reality. Our thoughts have power. What we say, when it goes from thought to out here, do you not realize that in Genesis it said, then God said, let there be light. God said this, it happened. Whatever's said starts to become reality and actuality.
Mm.
Imagination is the preview for life's coming attractions. If you can't imagine a better life for yourself here, then don't expect to see it out there. Don't expect to see it out in the real world. You have to start by right here inside, and you have to start changing that thinking. Um, Refresh me on the question so I can make sure
Nah,
I
you
keep
answered it.
answering it.
You answered it. You answered it. So here's the thing that I really received from that. You got to challenge yourself. You got to challenge what you believe. You like if you want to transform your life, it starts with challenging what's there. Like that's what we've been doing for the last 9 days. All right. Larry said on day 1, Leo, let me paraphrase what he said this way. On day 1, you challenged what I believe about work-life balance, about a time-bound measurement. And I took the challenge and I positioned myself to be transformed. And as a result, there's freedom that I have today, and I'm sharing that freedom with others. This guy, he went and called his sons, 31 and 28, I believe, and said, listen, I need you to hear me and hear me out. I have given you this idea that is erroneous. It doesn't work. And I need you to know why it doesn't work. And I need you to accept what actually does work so your life, your family life, and your business life can truly thrive and vibe. That's essentially what he said. And look, if y'all don't think I'm telling the truth, go watch the VIP experience, VIP Q&A experience number 3. You will see exactly what this man said. After 35 years of a career in corporate, after a 30-year marriage that ended in divorce, he realized that if they would have been thinking, watch this, imagining with the right principles, with the right perspective, this is basically what you were saying. If they would have had the right thought process and imagined consistent with family, business, life mastery rather than this work-life balance stuff, you're talking about they would have had a thriving and vibing family life more likely, as well as a thriving and thriving business life where they live majority of their life in the vein and lane of family life crashing and burning while business life was thriving and vibing. Sucks. And literally what you're saying is you want a better life. You imagine a better life, but you're unwilling to challenge what is actually causing you to not get that better life so you can experience the transformation to pursue and achieve that better life. Like, why do we do that from your perspective? What have you seen?
Before I answer that, I've got to say a quote that goes with what you just explained with your friend that was in this experience. We cannot change our destination overnight. but we can change our direction overnight.
Mm,
And what he did was he realized, I may not be where I want to be. I may not be where I'm going to be, but I'm so grateful that I'm not where I was, where he used to be. And once he realized that he was in the wrong spot, and he realized and he came to the conclusion that my thinking was skewed, he did what most people are afraid to do and pivot. And he took
yeah,
that leap of faith and he said, I don't care that I've done this for 20 years of my life, 30 years of my life.
yeah,
Now that I know the truth, when you know the truth will set you free.
yeah.
He broke the chains of bondage of broken thinking that was holding him back. I remember talking to, uh, what's his name? Ran for president. He passed away. He was owner of, I can't remember his name, but I spoke to this guy, and what I told him was, I said, we're held back by mental chains of bondage,
Mm,
mental chains of bondage, and that's what ends up happening. We have to break those chains. You hear the song, Chain Breaker, Waymaker, Miracle Worker,
promise keeper, light
Promise
in the
Keeper.
darkest.
Yeah, it's when you start to change your thinking, and the Bible says, renew your thinking.
Yeah,
Be transformed. Don't be conformed, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. He
come on,
renewed his
man.
mind in that moment, made a shift. I think what most people, and I actually had this question the other day, which is pretty
Come on.
cool. Same question. It was just rephrased. Why do you think most people, what holds them back, basically? What keeps them from doing what they need to do? And the simple answer is this: pain. Pain is what
Mm,
holds people back. By default, our minds want to keep us safe. It wants to protect us. And anything that looks like pain or stress, we avoid. So it's the pain of discipline that you're going to
yeah.
face in life, doing what has to be done, or you're going to live with the pain of regret. You just have to
Mm,
choose your pain. Both are painful, but here's the thing: one of them is going to give you something out of it, one of them is going to give you a reward. So why not go for the reward? If it's going to be painful anyway, why not get something out of it? And you think about that, and it's simple. It's just not easy, but it's worth it. It's not what it cost you. It's what's it worth to you. What's it
man,
worth to you?
you often, man, I have to be, I've never said this to you, but I want to say this. I think you are like a reincarnation of Jim Rohn. You have a way of talking like him a lot of times to where a lot of times I take a double take and I'm like, is that Jim? Because I know you've really studied this guy, right? And when you talked about just now the things being easy, you talked about pain. Like I heard his voice vividly. It was almost like he started saying, if you do what is easy, your
Oh
life will
yeah.
be hard. But if you do what is hard, your life will be easy, right? And that's essentially what you just told us. Like, hey folks, listen, the pain is something you need to be challenging. You need to be determining if this pain is trying to, if the pain point is saying to you, hey, don't do this because it's going to hurt and it's going to have you feel this way, so on and so forth. That's a deception. You need to be looking at, is there a reward on the other side of this pain? And we don't often look at it that way. I talked about, when I was running track in cross country and how when that bear would jump on my back with this refrigerator and the sofa, man, he'd come to have a party. Matter of fact, he was trying to watch what was happening with the race. I mean, just, popcorn and all that good stuff. You know what I'm saying? And here it is. Instead of me saying, look, I appreciate you coming along for the ride. Why don't you watch what's getting ready to happen with me? I was like, man, oh God, this is the pain. The pain. The pain was causing me to acquiesce rather than to, like the Flash, go within and generate that energy that was waiting to be unleashed. And here's the thing, I talked about this, that I did not practice unleashing that potential within. I practiced at the level of my talent. And that's a huge thing, man. Like when it comes to family life and business life, I think one of the reasons why we are comfortable just dealing with work life balance is because it's like the talent level. It works. At least we think it does, right? It sounds good when you without evaluating it. It's like, okay. But when you really start to understand that when the times get tough and the things get rough, like that balance thing, you're trying to do it, but it's not producing. It's like you just keep going, and instead of you challenging it and willing to deal with the tough work of just going in and say, why is this happening this way, and let me see if it's something I'm thinking that's wrong, and then move in that direction. We just acquiesce and just parlay right there in the situation. I'm guilty of it. I've seen it. Like I've been saying throughout this 9 days, I know what crashing and burning looks like while business life is thriving and vibing. I was there. You just talked about it, crashing and burning. It's like, dude, I feel like I'm going backwards. What was the difference, though? The difference was we were like, I can either, you said it, I can blame others. Because if I blame others, man, you said something there. I wouldn't even, it didn't trigger me like it did now. Brother, I remember when I was dealing with some things in my family life, specifically with my wife, I started doing differently than what my dad did. Let me give you an example. My dad, so before my mother passed away, and just to give you some perspective, I think we talked about this, I'm not sure, but my mom, I graduated from college in May. She passed away in August, same year. I got married in December, same year. So literally, she was the pages in between the cover, right? And so when she passed, my dad and her were having a very difficult time, and they started having the conversation about divorce. And to a degree, there was some separation because my mom, on the one hand, she kind of stayed at my grandparents' house because, that was kind of a place of rest while she was kind of dealing with some of her treatment and stuff like that related to chemotherapy and radiation. But also, there was some tension between them, right? And so it was kind of like, I don't know, and so my brother and I were like, oh, y'all need to be together, right? That's all we was looking at. We were not looking at anything behind the scene. Okay. So here it is. My mother passes. I get married. Then my dad, he remarries, sometime after that. And while I'm in my marriage, just in the first couple years, I'm seeing some things within myself that are similar to my dad's nature. And I'm starting to see, oh, this is what my mom was experiencing. I go, and one day we're in a conversation. It was my wife and me. Then it was my dad and his wife. And we were at his house, and he made this statement. And I said, well, Dad, it wasn't all mom, because, you could have maybe done blah, 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 blah. He said, oh, you're not about to blame what she was doing on me. I shut up. You know why? I realized here it is. I saw what it was that was going on. And I was willing to begin to deal with it in myself for my own marriage. But in that moment, I saw that he was unwilling to take responsibility for the thing he can control and focused on what it is that my mom contributed. And as a result, he brought those same things into that second marriage, which contributed to why she was not too sensitive to him on his deathbed and said he don't want to be resuscitated. I know I'm laughing, because I mean, it's like, Leo, you shouldn't be laughing about that. I dealt with it. It's written down, in the book. I don't have, it's like, I've dealt with that. I'm good. But when you think about it, it's like, yeah, that's kind of interesting, right?
Well, it reminds me like TD Jakes. I hear it all the time, and he says, You can take the old man and put him in a new car, but you're going to still have the same old experience
Mm,
because nothing on the inside changed. You just changed everything on the outside.
man. You know, you have been micro message man at another level for me today. Um, you've been hitting some things, even when you started to talk about pain, you challenged me, right? You didn't know this, but you did, and really positioned me to begin to think about what pain have I been avoiding that ultimately is keeping me away from rewards that are so bountiful and abundant, right? So I want you to know I got a lot of takeaways, but that one, it touched me, right? Before we cut it off, I don't like to say it that way. Before we come to the top of the hour, talk about this new work that you told me about you produced pretty quickly.
Which work specifically?
The one that was in a couple hours.
Oh, okay. So I want to touch on, because you mentioned pain, and
Sure.
I want to touch on something that I think is really crucial for most people that are watching, that I picked up on not too long ago, and I was like, that makes sense. There's there's two types of stress. I didn't know this,
Mm,
but stress is what everyone's familiar with. It's the things that happen to us in life that we didn't expect. We weren't thinking that was going to happen. It's just life happening to you. Stress. Get a flat tire. Okay,
yeah.
stress. You wake up, you're sick. Stress. Things didn't go away, you get fired. Stress. But there's another type called eustress. EU stress. And it's really cool because it's like it's a stress we put on ourselves, because we know that by putting it on ourselves, it's going to make us stronger. So, like going to the gym, eustress. It's a stress to go and lift the weights, but because lifting heavier weights, we know that it's worth the pain because of the outcome that we're going to get. It's when
Yeah.
you choose to eat healthy and eat better foods. It's not desirable to just want to go and grab broccoli and walnuts. But by doing that stress, eating what we don't want to eat, we can get what we want out of life. We
Yeah.
can start getting better results. So it's having those conversations. I don't want to have the painful conversation with my wife or with my spouse or kids or anything that I screwed up. But if we put the stress on ourselves, we know the outcome is going to be better. We'll have a better relationship. So speaking of relationships, I'll jump on what you're talking about. So this book here, I used, maybe you've heard of Chat GPT
Mm,
recently. It's AI technology. And I thought it was unique that you're talking about marriage. Well, I put this together in 20 minutes. And what Chat GPT is, the artificial intelligence. And I asked it, I said, hey, what's the top 25 marriage tips? And it went through and it pulled up everything that as humans would consider to be good relationship skills. And I was like, this is actually really good stuff. Be willing to make sacrifices for the good of the relationship.
mm,
Okay, that's a tip. And it expands on it. Show affection in small ways, such as
mm.
just holding hands. Be understanding, patient with each other. And remember, no relationship is perfect. Oh, this one's good right here. And you touched on this really the other day. Practice active listening and
Mm.
really try to understand each other's perspectives and feelings. So it's like, are you listening to have your turn to talk, or are you listening to understand? And I know you said that the other day in one of the
That was with Randy for sure.
masterminds.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
with Randy.
but it's just like it's amazing the technology that we have. I think you've probably heard the phrase like we're we're swimming we're swimming in a sea of knowledge, but we're drowning for wisdom.
Wow.
We're drowning for wisdom. Like we have everything at our fingertips, but we're just not applying the knowledge. It's not, and I love this.
Mm,
Jim Quick says this. If you don't know Jim Quick, Kwik,
yeah.
great guy. And what he says is, it's not that we don't know what to do, we just don't do what we know.
Wow.
And it goes back to that pain element. The reason we don't do it because it's painful. But when we realize, here's how you get beyond the pain. When you have purpose for the pain,
Mm,
you will put yourself through the pain. But if you don't see purpose in it, you will not want to do it. Most of the times you don't. But here's the cool
wow.
thing, just like your friend did the other day, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. And if you think it's too late, remember this, the next best time is today. So whatever you're going through, whatever you're struggling with, whatever you're dealing with, you can start again right now, today.
Man, I'm not even gonna say anything, man. Share with us anything you want us to know, offer, like just give us some stuff. I know you
Okay.
got a good bit of books.
So
Let
I'm
us
going to
know
just
about it.
show you. I showed you this one. Shut the hell up. This is talking about the power of what we say, what we think. This one, Disturbed, it's called Breaking the Cycle. It's talking about the patterns that we deal with, the patterns, our routines, our systems. And a
Yeah.
lot of us get stuck in a broken cycle, broken thinking. We try to live the same year 75 times in a row, and we want to call that a life. We don't
Yeah.
have to. Just because we grew up and our family did it, like you talked about just a minute ago, we picked up patterns of what our family life looked like from our family situations. Well, if it's a broken pattern, you don't have to stick with that pattern. You can choose to break it. You don't have to do it the way everyone else did it because that's all you knew.
Yeah.
Learn new things, renew your mind. And I have these QR codes. I'm going to hold these up. This right here is this QR code is, if you scan this on your phone, this will connect with me on Instagram. Okay.
Sweet.
And then I'm going to hold this other one up. And if you want any of my books, I got about 10 different books on Amazon right now. And you can use this QR code to connect with my author page on Amazon. What I would love for you to do is go get one of these books. Like one of these two books right now, these are like so good. Like I read this one last night and I haven't read it in a while. And it's one of those moments where I realized it wasn't even me. It was just literally God working through me to write a book. It's like he said, "Hey, all those experiences that I gave you, they were not for a reason. No test, no testimony, okay? So I put you through the test, and then I want you to put your testimony in this book."
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, that is so simple. And here's the beautiful thing. Look, you see that? It's micro. They're micro books. Decades in the days right here, my friends. This is like 10 years of my life or more in this book. And it's so simple and it's so direct and it's so on point. And I'm telling you, you want to change lives? Start by changing yours. Get the book today.
Absolutely, man. Shane, you had what I would call a quiet energy and power because, first of all, that's a part of your nature. You kind of like a quiet tempered person. You can bring it. Don't get me wrong, but it's just like you be on chill and you just be dropping them gems and them gold bars and just be calm about it. I was like, man, this was such a tranquil, challenging experience. And I'm sure some of the other people over there like, man, that was good. Well, guess what? It was because you joined us, right?
Mm-hmm.
So y'all connect with Shane. Do know that when you connect with him, you also have the ability to connect with him on the backside of being a part of our community because you're going to hear about Shane a whole lot more when he has new books coming out. We're going to be one of the first communities to know about that. Also, go get that book that he did through Chat GPT. Well, you can't get it through Chat GPT, but he did the 25 marriage tips. Go check that book out. He kind of talked to me about some of the other things in there, other than what he shared here. And what's fascinating about what it is you shared regarding that book, Shane, is a lot of people are asking the question: is Chat GPT erring on the side of plagiarism. Okay. And I get the conversation, I have the privilege of being a professor of business, adjunct in a community college. And that's a huge conversation. Is this something
Yeah.
that, you as the student, went and just got somebody else to do for you? I think it's really no different than getting somebody else to write your paper for you.
Yeah.
Or in the author space, an author is different from a writer, right? The writer is the person who takes the thoughts of the author and writes the content for them, and the author has the ability to expound upon that and represent that. And so I think that this is unique technology that is really allowing us to see this is why I brought that up, to see that we can tap into the AI space and cause AI to go and grab what we've put out here in the virtual space to bring together in unique manner. So really, I think it's a matter of other people's contributions in a certain way being termed in a certain way, and it's going to be unique to an individual's way of outlining and saying, this is what I would want you to tell me, Chat GPT, right?
Mhm.
Return this information. So that's a whole nother conversation, but I'm looking forward to seeing what you got in there, because that's going to be magnificent. So we're going to
Short.
get out
Hey,
of here. Say again.
the short answer to is it plagiarism? Is it not? All that stuff. Think about this. What did the Bible say? Solomon. There's nothing new under the sun.
Come on, brother.
You go and take this whole conversation and every single word, every single phrase, every single thing we said, you trace back to the Bible.
Yeah, man. There he goes again with that quiet power and energy. Y'all, listen, y'all want to see some more Shane? I promise you, you're going to see plenty of him in the Family Business Life Mastery community. So make sure you get on over to team30.com/FBLM community and join us. Join us in experiencing quantum leaps in the achievement of mastery between family life and business life. And let me just be very, very clear with you. A lot of people, they want you to join the community because, they want you to, be able to be a part of it so they can say they got this many people, that many people. Let me tell you the truth. I want stories like what Larry had, where he says, that first day you said this and it changed everything for me. That's what we want, right? We know that there are people who are really, on the surface and deep within, wrestling with this pervasive problem of family life crashing and burning while business life is thriving and vibing, perceptively illusionary. And we want you to be loosed from that. We want you to be let go from that. And so you have your way to do that by joining the community. So Shane and I are about to have a private conversation while y'all go and think about everything we just conversed about in public. Y'all take care. Be great. You hear me now?